this verse that you cited, was that from the Old or the New Testament?
Old Testament.
Okay, I've thought about capital punishment, etc. And in the Old Testament, isn't that under the assumption that we're living in a God-ruled country, that the government is God?
A theocracy.
Right, and this country is not.
Great distinction. Very important distinction.
So,
But in Genesis 9:6, there's no theocracy. That was at the time of Noah.
okay. So you think it's justifiable for a government that's not that, or doesn't profess to follow God, to still level capital punishment?
Possibly. Possibly. See, in Genesis 9:6, the principle is, if you shed the blood of man, by man your blood will be shed. Why? For in the image of God did God create male and female. In other words, if I murder you, that is absolutely evil because you have real worth. Why? Because you're not an accident. You're a human being created in the image of God. So when I murder you, what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey God, when you made her, big mistake. That's a lie. That is a total lie. When God made you, he did a magnificent job. Murdering is not just attacking you. Murder is also attacking God and saying, God, when you made her, bad job. So that's the difficult question for us as followers of Christ to think through. If you murder someone, have you forfeited your right to suck wind above earth? Creatures have desires. Those desires can usually be satisfied. A little baby has a desire for food, and there's food to satisfy that desire. A duckling desires water, and there is water for the duckling to swim in. Men and women have a sex drive, and there's a sexual relationship to satisfy that drive. It seems that when there's a universal drive that a creature has, there is some way to satisfy that drive. Now, if you and I, as human beings around the planet, have this drive to understand meaning in life, then it follows that there's probably something to satisfy that drive. Now, the only way there can be real meaning, significant meaning to life, is if we've been made for a purpose. If we're just accidental collections of atoms, there's no real meaning to life. It's whatever we want to make up in our heads. So that innate drive for a meaning in life, I'm convinced, is a universal desire. I think anthropology backs that up. And so that leads me to believe we were made for a purpose by some type of creator.
What if I rearranged your words and just said what we're searching for is understanding of life? So it could be just the understanding of how we came to being, not necessarily a search for meaning behind why we came into being.
Good. If you were to tell me, no, Cliff, I'm sorry. Really what you're talking about is we just want to understand how we came about. Then I'd have to think about that. But once again, what I would do is I'd come back and I'd challenge you and I'd say, no, I don't think so. I think what you're talking about is a particular Western fascination with the question, scientifically, how did we come about? That's a good scientific question. But there is also a deeper, more philosophical question, which is, what is the purpose of human existence? Why live? Why suck wind? Why eat 3 meals a day? Why study, go to school? What's the reason? What's the purpose of your life? And I think if you study anthropology carefully, you'll see that around the world, not just in the West, but around the world, people had this innate drive to struggle through the issue. I have a desire to understand my meaning and purpose in life. It's like it's an instinct. What is the meaning of my life? What is the purpose? Why is human life valuable? Why am I significant? See, that's a question of meaning and purpose. And it's a drive, a desire that we all have. And so for me, it follows quite logically, we must have been made for a purpose. The same thing is true with this innate drive to know God. 6th century BC Greece, the philosophers tried to stamp religion out. Stalin, Soviet Union, tried to erase religion. Red China, Mao Zedong, tried to wipe out religion. It keeps on coming back. Why? We human beings have this innate desire to know God. It just keeps on coming back around the world. Well, that innate drive, that innate desire, where does that come from? Why do we human beings have this innate drive to know God? Doesn't it logically follow that there's quite probably some God to meet that desire?